Hey, 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 happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, simply enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, February 3rd. That's right, it is a brand new month. It is 2026. And this is live stream 1282. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop role-playing game news. And then we will usually take a first look at a tabletop role-playing game release. Every once in a while, I might unbox a board game or talk about a topic related to our hobby or even do an AMA. But for the most part, around these here parts, yeah, it's usually us taking a first look at a game. And tonight will be no different because we're going to dive on in and take a first look at Pendragon, the Sauvage King from Chaosium Inc. This is arriving in stores tomorrow. So we're going to take a peek ahead of time, get a head start, get a jump on the Pendragon goodness that is contained within. So we're going to take a peek at this tonight. If you are tuning in for the first look and you're not overly familiar with the show, once again, we tackle tabletop gaming news around here, mainly role-playing game news. We always cover that first. So it's probably going to be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we jump on into the first look at the Pendragon release. So if you're watching live, kick back, relax, put your feet up. We'll get to it. Don't worry, we'll get there. Now, of course, if you're watching this 30 minutes or more after the stream has ended, there will be timestamps. So if you want to jump past the tabletop gaming news, you certainly can. Although there's some cool stuff tonight I'll be sharing with the gang. But those timestamps will be found down in the show notes. Also, depending on what device you might be watching this on, you might actually have those timestamps right there in the timeline of the video. All depends on what you're using. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, comment, fire away. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Semper Buffo. The Madman is with us, as is Kevin R. Smith, Testy Trekkie. Oh, see, remember I told you, folks, two or more days away from doing the live stream, and it's like, gosh, I can't even read. It's like I forget how to do this. What does this button do? Tessie Trekkie's with us, as is Mark Hawkswell. Danny W. Gable is also hanging with the gang, as is Kathy Evans. Oh, I see Cthulhu has also popped on in. So we got chat off and running. We may have the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D., another of our chat moderators, alongside the Madman, hanging out, lurking in the shadows. And that's a possibility. All right, so let's jump right on into the news because I've got a lot cooking. because the Earth After Death Wastelander's Handbook has now landed in print over at Exalted Funeral from Hammer City Games. Gotta love the name of that. Hammer City Games. I got the scoop. Post-apocalyptic survival role-playing. The Wastelander's Handbook, a player's guide to creating a character and delving into the wastelands of the New World in Earth After Death, the spiritual successor to Gamma World. This novel D20-based system brings the advanced systems and crunch of 80s and 90s tabletop role-playing games back in a digestible and easy-to-understand format. This contains everything you need to run your first games, including 5 starting strains of humanity, including abandoned mutants, the eclectic ghost machines, and just bog-standard humans. Full lists for weapons, armor, and exploration items like gas masks. It's got a level-up system that uses skill points as well as intermittent perks. Just like Fallout. There's a new easy-to-use tracking system for resources like food and energy, as well as an abstract ammunition system that makes gunplay feel crunchy without the busy work. You'll also find over 100 mutations, rules of stress and radiation accumulation, and bartering rules. This contains the Overseer's pamphlet to get GMs prepped for running games and doling out rewards. There's even rules for dungeon and hex crawling, including accounting for encumbrance, radiation, and more. The 52-page softcover zine carries an MSRP of $25. You can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $10. This caught my eye. I thought, hey, it looks kind of cool. I've got a soft spot for Gamma World. Although I say it all the time, the original Gamma World was not as gonzo as people think it was. It was a little closer to hard science fiction in the first edition, which quickly evaporated and went more weird gonzo action, which is fine. I'm completely cool with that in the second edition onward. In fact, I think it aimed to get a little weirder every edition that came out. Now, I also understand that this crowdfunded, but it did not have a successful crowdfunding project. So to my knowledge, this is the player's book. There is also a game master's book, which I think is going to be on the horizon. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. All right, let's see. So Scott Lazarez is with us asking, there's a new Pendragon book? Yes, it's hitting stores tomorrow. Yes. J-Man is with us, as is Kevin King. Good to see you. And yes, the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is hanging with the gang tonight. All right, so we're talking about an unsuccessful crowdfunding run. Let's talk about something that had a successful Kickstarter run, and that is Witch, Fated Souls 2nd Edition. It is now out in PDF for Angry Hamster Publishing. We had some cool names for companies tonight. Here's what I know. Witch, Fated Souls 2nd Edition is a modern dark fantasy game where you play a witch who sold their soul to a demon for power. Your soul might be lost, but there's still hope for redemption if you can outwit your demon. The game draws its inspiration from TV shows like The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Supernatural, and American Horror Story Coven. Behind the familiar facade of the world you know hides a world of supernatural wonder and horror. This game deals with witches, known as Fated, people who sold their souls in a demonic bargain. The reasons witches strike up such a hellish bargain are varied. One witch might fate themselves for power, others for money, and then still others to save a loved one. Magic is never the point of the bargain, but it always comes as a side effect, whether the witch likes it or not. Most witches come to regret this deal sooner or later. The 236-page PDF is available now over at DriveThruRPG for $19. No word yet on when the print edition of this is going to arrive. I did pop over to the Angry Hamster Publishing website. No info. No info on it. Just led me to the Kickstarter project. But you know what? I didn't peek to see if there was still a late pledge. Maybe there is. You know. All right, let's see. Scott says they love Pendragon. Very nice. Dusty Trekkie says, Angry Hamster, Boo and Minsk would approve. Go for the eyes, Boo. Go for the eyes. Dark Autumn Scribe is also popping on into chat. Welcome back. Moving right along, let's talk about some miniatures rules, because there is a series of Forbidden Psalm releases, which are the focus of a new bundle of holding, and I've got the deets on the deal. Adventurer. This all-new Forbidden Psalm bundle presents 8 death metal miniatures games from OptimisticNIL, inspired by and compatible with the art punk tabletop role-playing game, Mirkborg. Yes, I know, I'll say it the usual, normal way. People get mad when I do my jokingly pronounced Morkborg, which isn't that, it's Mirkborg. Yep, see now, I'm sure somebody got mad out there. You'll get over it. Anyway, of course, Mirkborg is from Swedish design teams Occult, Orchmaster Games, and the Stockholm Cartel, and published by Free League Publishing. But we're not talking about that, because the rules light, old school Mirkborg role-playing game tells of miserable heretics enduring a bleak, dying world. Forbidden Psalm designer Will Rahman plants you in that world at a 28mm skirmish scale in a warband of disposable warriors who unleash horrible magic and probably suffer for it. Forbidden Psalm offers a do-it-yourself, pick-up-and-play miniatures experience that combines the skirmish excitement of games like Mordheim and Mac Attack with the grimdark vibe of Darkest Dungeon. With warbands of just 5 figures, plus a few monsters and hostiles, you can quick play 6-turn scenarios on tight 2-foot by 2-foot battlefields using any miniatures you have on hand, head-to-head, cooperatively, or even solo. Play any scenario on its own or run a complete narrative campaign. Lob in elements from any Mirkborg RPG title and use the magic, relics, and monsters from the war game to enhance your role-playing dungeons. Or with the 7 standalone compatible games in this offer, send your plain-tossed mercenary warbands across dimensions, from fantasy into cyberpunk and survival horror. They won't have a happy life, but they'll stay active. And for hardened survivors, a wealth of plunder and experience awaits. For just $9.95, you'll get all 4 complete miniatures game rulebooks in the starter collection, which have a retail value of $60, as DRM-free PDFs, including the definitive Forbidden Psalm End Times Edition, the neon-lit cyborg game Kill Sample Process, the Last War Trench Warfare Hellscape, and the zombie survival game Hope is for the Dead. And if you pay more than the current threshold price, or at least it was the current threshold price earlier this afternoon, of $20.10, you'll level up. Also get the entire bonus collection with 6 more titles worth an additional $69, including a standalone campaign game of evil cultists, endless horrors from between the stars, Dread Nights about monster hunting night folk, the bloodily dumb sports game Mirk Bowl, a base building game of cute gobbos, cloth goblins, and 2 rules expansions compatible with all Forbidden Psalm games, Collection of Death, and Forbidden Seas. The savings will run through February 23rd. I recall that I think there is someone who hangs out in chat. I don't know if they're hanging out with us tonight, but I know they have mentioned Forbidden Psalm in the past, that they really dug it, that it's pretty cool. Joe Oblivion is with us in chat. I was going to say it, probably a first-time visit because I don't recognize the nickname. And they said, yes, they are happy to make their first live show. Also just started playing their first Pendragon campaign. Looking forward to what's coming out next. Oh, I know everybody's waiting for the great Pendragon campaign. Oh, boy, that's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. Somebody just, Tessie Trekkie just said, fun fact, in Sweden, the Muppet character is known as the Norwegian chef. Nice. Moving right along, now available in PDF for Tales of the Valiant and Dungeons & Dragons is Good Riddance. And here's the latest from Kobold Press. Good monsters gone bad. Surprise your 5e Dungeons & Dragons and Tales of the Valiant players. Wow. Tales of the Valiant didn't even get top billing from Kobold Press. It's got Tales of the Valiant trade dress on it. I don't know. Surprise your players with foes that are usually friends. This 12-page collection of adventure hooks, tactics, and lore makes it easy to stage a memorable combat encounter with blink dogs, kobolds, devas, metallic dragons, storm giants, and even unicorns. Each creature comes with from 2 to 4 detailed hooks ready to play, plus a twist. These twists include taming a good-aligned unicorn, new combat abilities, a storm giant's unique and powerful lair actions, and all new magic items from angel, kobolds, and blink dogs. Make your players hesitate, then put the bite on them when potential allies turn out to have their own agendas. The 12-page PDF is out at DriveThruRPG for $4.99. Well. Yes, who just said, Scott Lazarus says they might be giving it up. No, Tales of Valiant isn't going anywhere. Just did a first look at their player's guide too. They're in it for the long haul. It's just somebody wasn't thinking when they threw together this sell sheet info. Like, okay. So we have Low Up 4634, which I believe it's a first-time visit for them as well in chat. Asked, could I do a first look at Gthorkborg? I don't even know who that's from. The reality is, vast majority of the items that I share reviews of do come from the publishers because we operate on a budget, which makes a shoestring look like a cable holding up the Golden Gate Bridge, as I point out. So normally I don't do requests, although we do have some fans, some friends of the show who will send me copies of stuff that they'd like to get my take on, or they donate funds for me to pick stuff up. So we've seen that with some of the Goodman Games releases that we've peeked at. So there we have that. Moving right along, let's talk about our final news piece, because there's an interesting looking rules light, fast-paced fantasy rule set from Kabuki Kaiser. There you go. That is the third wild name for a publisher, which has caught my eye. This is what I know about many sought adventure. A small solo-friendly feral D6 fantasy engine for rogue wizards and dungeon rats, and a Rosetta Stone that tells you how to run BX, AD&D, 5e, Tunnels and Trolls, OSR zines, and one-pagers as is. Fast tables, stolen spells, scoundrel magic, lethal stakes. The Raven and the Rat long past midnight in Dagger Alley. Hushed talk about elephantine towers and lost dwarven cities, smoke on the rafters, guttering candles, the stink of wet cloaks and cheap wine. Dungeon maps lie spread on greasy planks, a knife driven through them. Elven runes aglow. Everyone's cowled or hooded. This is no guild and no honorable company. It's where the wrong sort drift when they need coin and don't care who gets bled for it. You might spot clever Kugel here, the gray Mauser in a corner booth. Subotai, the Harkonnen, checking the exits. Taurus of Nemedia, weighing a purse. Shadow Spawn from Sanctuary. Oh, loving the Thieves' World throwback there. Watching everyone. And Bilbo the Burglar pretending he isn't out of his depth. All right, not all of those characters are necessarily scoundrels. Grey Mouse is relatively heroic. Bilbo is. But according to this, they are scoundrels, sellswords, and rogue wizards. Many sought adventure plays like an old paperback. Rulings over rules, swingy luck, narrow escapes, and schemes that come from the players rather than the character sheet. It's built for fast tables, light prep, and eldritch magic. Run adventures written for other old school and mainstream fantasy games without converting them. Keep one character sheet. Hop systems week to week. Use the same rogue/wizard through a BX crawl, a 5e one-shot, a Tunnels and Trolls scenario, or an OSR zine. The 32-page PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $3.99. Looks kind of cool. I like the artwork too. The artwork is pretty nice in this as well. I don't know if this is available in print anywhere, but it is now out in PDF. I would be curious to take a peek at this because, for one, it looks like this is very, very rules light. No doubt about that. Blow Up asks, what if the RPG was free? Well, for one, if it's just a PDF, I don't do first looks at PDFs. I do have correspondents. I have contributors who review PDFs. I personally don't. I always just stick with physical releases. One of the reasons is if I start sharing video coverage of PDFs, then I've opened up a whole can of worms, and everybody's going to be hitting me up with their PDFs, and they're going to be like, well, you did that one. So my policy is, no, I'll share news. I got absolutely no issue sharing news about games, especially, if they don't have AI. If they do have AI, nope, I don't share any coverage at all. All right, so let's see here. Captain Finity Time Travel Police has joined us. Chris Lundgren's popping on in. We haven't seen Chris in a while. Chris and Buddy are joining us tonight. Good to see you. All right, so that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I mentioned DriveThruRPG a few times. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to stop on by, say, DriveThruRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of the various One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do go a long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around every month. Also, if you like the video, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, be sure to ring that bell and select all notifications. That way you'll know when this show streams. You'll know when I share new reviews and new standalone first look videos and so forth. And it really does go a long way to help promote the website as well. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a couple of moments. But just pointing out, if you do subscribe, be sure to select that bell and select all notifications. Or I think there's another setting that it's like some notifications. I don't know. Really. Anyway, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, just like what we do, there are a couple other ways that you can support the outlet. First, by going and making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Delish. I know everybody always notices when I take a sip and I say something like, oh, this is wonderful. I always give you a look like it's just diet soda. Not that exciting. Anyway. Or outside of just making a one-time donation, you can also become a member of our monthly Patreon. That's right. And become my Patreon member, which actually gets you some extra benefits as far as our Discord server, which leads me to mention that if you also happen to take a peek down in the show notes, you'll find information about the Patreon and so forth. You'll also find an invite link to our Discord server. Absolutely free to sign up. Be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. A few more people popping on into chat. I see that Matthew Constantine is with us, as is Roger Trudeau. We haven't seen Roger in a while. Good to see you back. Very cool. All right, so we are going to dive in. We're going to take a look at the Sauvage King for Pendragon in a few minutes. A couple of things I wanted to mention. I know we've talked a little bit on the live shows recently about how to help the channel out. And I've been kind of checking things, behind the scenes. So if you are a subscriber and you get a notification of a new video from the Gaming Gang, please watch the video within the first 24 hours. Now, I'm not saying watch the entire video. I'm not telling you, oh, okay, you got to watch the hour-and-a-half live stream. No, I'm not telling you that whatsoever. But what happens, and this is one of the reasons why some folks out there are subscribed to the channel and they never see anything, in their feeds or any notification that there's a new video out there, because YouTube will only share the video with a small portion of subscribers. So we're approaching 17,000 subs. We're less than 100 subscribers away. So it'll share just with a few of them. And if those subscribers don't watch the video, if they start watching it and they move on to another video 30 seconds in, that hurts the channel. So it will actually stop YouTube from sharing the videos, even with subscribers. So what I would ask you to do, if possible, if you ever start watching any of the Gaming Gang videos, leave it on for at least a couple of minutes. Don't be like, you know what? I don't want to. This isn't a game that I'm interested in. Just give it a couple of minutes. Because if you leave, if you go visit some other page or watch some other video in those first 30 seconds, it is bad news. It is really bad news. And so that is one thing that I would certainly ask. And if you are a subscriber and you get a notification that there is a new video for the Gaming Gang, or really any channel that you really like and you want to help support, watch that video, click on that notification within the first 24 hours and start watching it for a little bit. Easy enough. Very cool. Very nice. Anywho, other thing I wanted to mention, I've gotten a few emails asking if I'm going to comment on the Dice Tower controversy that's going on out there, I am not. It's not my business. So if you don't even know what's going on, I don't want to say don't worry about it. I'm not going to recap it for you. But I think by now, everyone who does anything online, shares an opinion online, shares videos online, anything like that, they know that if they say something that people don't like, it's going to come back and bite them. So I don't know. But I know a lot of publishers out there, a lot of people who cover the hobby are refraining from talking about what's going on in the country politically and things like that because they don't want to piss people off. I don't care about pissing people off. I don't. And if you follow this channel for enough time, you know what side of the aisle I'm on. So it's just, every once in a while I'll say something. I know I've had people who are like, oh, I unsubbed because you talk about politics too much. It's like, really? What is it now? A dozen times in over 1,200 videos? Maybe I've mentioned something. Dunno. But yeah, there's some stuff going on. But that's why I do my best not to put my foot in my mouth. I've done it. Or I've had people, misinterpret what I said. And I'm like, no. Listen to the words that actually came out of my mouth. Not what you think came out. But, Anyway, so I'm just not going to throw my hat into that whole debate. So there's that. Matthew Constantine says, I'm going to unsub because you talked about, I don't know, PDFs or something. Yeah, because you're just an angry person online. Captain Finity says, something, freedom of speech. It's your channel. Yeah, Chris Leonard said, yeah, it's your channel, your choice. Yep, I know. Anyway, but yeah, it was kind of funny. Number one, I don't really even tackle board games that much anymore, so I'm not even in that orbit really much. So anyway, let's see. I see Chris Lundgren's talking about bloat games. So there's second edition zombies. Anything else cooking? Oh, Agile Monks just popped into chat. Another good friend of the show. They are still at work, so they're trying to watch this via phone. Yeah, well, you're going to probably have a little difficult time with some of the text. So we will see. All right. Anyway, one last thing I want to mention before we start moving along. I want to give a big thank you to our Patreon members. Get a tip of the cap. So big thank you to Adrian Carpio, Kubal, Kevin R. Smith, Talzak, Sean O'Donnell, Herman Lutman, Gustavo Cavalho, Matt Weiss, Kevin King, Game Cat, RPG Munch, Tier 2 DM, Pete Strakolich, Dan Webb, Tessie Trekkie, Agile Monk, and the Madman. Your support is very much appreciated. So tonight, we're going to dive on in. We're going to take a first look at Pendragon, the Sauvage King from Chaosium Inc. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Now a brief intermission in which the Campbell kids discover that Mother knows best.
Good. Johnny came calling one Sunday. The girl of his dreams was so sweet. She served him some wonderful dishes, but he found the meal incomplete.
No soup?
Good day, Irene, good day. Goodbye, Eastside. To get the punch of soup for lunch,
I'll seek another bride.
oh, what a wailing and sighing.
Oh, what shall I do, Mother dear? Just reach for some soup from the soup shelf. You'll soon have your Johnny back here.
Did someone say soup?
Soup and a salad delicious. Soup and a sandwich is great. Soup for lunch is nutritious.
Yes, you are my favorite date.
Now they're a family, one happy bunch, and every day you'll hear them say,
Let's have soup for lunch. Good.
How's this for lunch or light supper tomorrow? Lean, tender pieces of beef, plus juicy golden egg noodles and rich, full-flavored beef stock. That's Campbell's Beef Noodle Soup, a grand lunch or light supper.
We're here to persuade people to drink more Wilkins coffee.
What's the club for?
To get their attention.
What's up, Mike?
Oh, they're not anything, our bugs. There's nobody here but us monkeys.
Make friends with Kool-Aid. Make Kool-Aid with friends. For brew that never ends. Make friends with Kool-Aid.
Make some Kool-Aid soft drink mix. You can always use another friend. Ah!
The field of honor. A knight's courage is put to the test. Miles O'Keefe is Sir Gawain, the greatest knight of all. His strength equaled by none. Sir Gawain's power is supreme until now. Sean Connery is the mysterious Green Knight.
All I seek is good sport.
Trevor Howard is the king.
I shall have some proof tonight that knightliness still lives within these walls.
My liege, give me the axe.
I give you a year's grace to grow your beard.
Sean Connery throws down the gauntlet of challenge. Sir Gawain accepts and sets out on a dangerous adventure, marked by combat and the promise of death. Only his courage as a knight can save him. Cyrielle Clare is the beautiful Lynette.
Gawain, help! I've always loved you.
Ronald Lacey is the evil Oswald.
She's mine.
His lust for wealth and power is surpassed only by his brutality. His fiery passions engulf all. Peter Cushing is the cunning seneschal.
Are you bold enough to cross your father?
The lands are mine.
John Rhys Davies is the Baron Fortinbras. Lee Lawson is Humphrey, loyal only to Sir Gawain.
You're not playing my game, Gawain. You have a ring, and it does not belong to you.
Fighting the forces of magic and sorcery, Sir Gawain is faced with unearthly dangers. He is challenged by all, defeated by none.
A remarkable man.
Fighting the treachery around him.
Leave the wretch to his miserable end.
Always courageous.
Forward into battle!
Always victorious.
Tomorrow I ride out to meet the Green Knight.
The ultimate challenge awaits him.
We have an appointment at the Green Chapel before the sun goes down.
You've had your cut. The game is over.
I make the rules, boy. I make the rules.
Sean Connery and Miles O'Keefe in Sword of the Valiant, an epic tale of a legendary knight, a knight called Sir Gawain.
Inconceivable. And how much Keefe will you find in that film? Miles O'Keefe. Yes, I see Dark Autumn Scribe beat me to the punch on that one. What, you thought you were going to get a trailer for a good Arthurian movie? Simon York is joining us in chat. Might be a first-time visit. Not recognizing the nickname there. But they said it's one of the movies of all time. Yeah, that's about right. I thought that was good. It's one of the movies of all time. Yeah. Awful film. In fact, if I remember correctly, I was a big like review guy, as even in high school, and so I would always read reviews of movies, even if I wasn't going to see them. So that's one of the weird reasons why I know a lot about movies that I have never seen. Anyway, one of the contemporary reviews of the Sword of the Valiant, or Sword of the Valiant, whatever, was that it made the budget for Monty Python and the Holy Grail look lavish. It's like, yeah. Alrighty, so tonight we're going to dive on in. We are going to take a look at Pendragon, the Sauvage King from Chaosium Inc. This 88-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $29.99. You can also grab the PDF starting tomorrow on DriveThruRPG. I'm going to take a guess. It'll be $14.99. I don't think it's going to be $19.99. Chaosium Inc.'s usually pretty good as far as doing about like half the price there. So Roger Fredome says they're actually going to see Princess Bride accompanied by the Montreal Symphonic Orchestra in 2 weeks. It's going to be inconceivable. Nice. Very nice. Stacking Limits with us tonight as well. Welcome aboard. All right, so let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got the Sauvage King for Pendragon. Few things to mention before we jump on in. So, yeah, Danny Gable says, I thought it was a Sausage King. Yeah, where's he from? I'm trying to remember in Ferris Bueller. The Sausage King of, I forget, Milwaukee, something like that. Anyway, first of all, my friends over at Cubicle 7, my friends over at Chaosium Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at every page of this book, but I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside. Then lastly, this is an adventure book. So there are some scenarios in here, as well as I believe there's a sandbox campaign as well. So if you're a player and your game master is planning on picking this up, maybe they've already pre-ordered it. Keep in mind, going to be some spoilers, even though I have not taken a peek inside this. I know we're going to see some spoilers as we're flipping on through. Ravenclaw 74 is popped on in, said, most disappointing Arthurian movie, First Night. Yeah, that's not a good one either. And that's another Sean Connery movie, except Connery plays Arthur in that one. Dare the Realm of the Sauvage King. In the heart of Logres, an enchanted wood festers and grows. It is the realm of Medog, king of the forest Sauvage, and it holds many great perils and strange wonders. Many who venture beneath its nighted boughs are never heard from again. How will you fare? Pendragon, the Sauvage King, is a collection of scenarios, including, it's going to tell us what we've got there. And you also want to keep in mind that you have to either have the core rulebook or the starter set in order to use this. All right. So here we've got a pretty sweet looking map. I like that. That's very, very nice. All right. First thing we'll do is we'll take a peek at the credits page. I know Greg Stafford's the main author on this. So it's Greg Stafford, David Zeman, and Doyle Wayne Ramos Taverner. And then there are our other credits. So a lot of folks work very hard to bring this to life. Let's give some credit where credit is due. Looks like a lot of this was done by Moon Design Publications, which was Greg Stafford's company. So we got our introduction. Welcome to the realm of the Forest Sauvage. Within these pages are quests and adventures that challenge and bedevil your player nights for many game years to come. These scenarios are designed for ease of integrating into your campaign and thus do not have specific dates associated with them. As you find in the scenarios presented in the Pendragon starter set and the Game Master's Handbook and the Grey Knight. That being said, all of these scenarios presumably take place between 508 and 518, though with the exception of the Forest Sauvage, they're easily adaptable to earlier or later periods. So the Forest Sauvage is presented here in a revised version of the original adventure found in the Great Pendragon campaign, which I had mentioned a little bit earlier. I know people are really looking forward to that. And we're hoping that we get to see it this year. Fingers crossed on that. So we also have the adventure of Black Anise and the adventure of White Horse Vale. The adventure of the Salisbury Hare is also included in here. So this is the Forest Sauvage. With the death of King Uther, the kingdom of Logris falls into anarchy. As the saying goes, the king is the land and the land is the king. And now without a sovereign to shield it, ancient and spiritual forces long held at bay see back into the world. In the heart of Logris were the counties of Lambor, Tribruit, and Werenus. Yeah, I'm sure I mispronounced that. Meet the central forest merge into a single vast wilderness. This new expanse, known as the Forest Sauvage, grows wild and unchecked, threatening to swallow the surrounding lands. An interesting little side note is that if you have never seen like Primordial Forest, it is insane. There aren't too many places left in the world that you could consider to be Primordial Forest. But damn, you know, here in the U.S., you go to the forest preserve and you're like, oh, or you go camping and, you know, you're like, oh, look, it's the forest. Ha! No. No, not at all. It's like, oh my God. It's like it would take, you know, hours to just maybe go a mile in like, you know, primordial or like forests that we had seen back in the Middle Ages and things like that. And Agile Monk with a $10 super chat says, yes, the Great Pendragon campaign was awesome. They are greatly looking forward to the new release. So Simon York asks, this is available tomorrow. Yes, it is. So they're assuming that's when it'll pop up on the Chaosium site. You can find it, but you can't find an order page. At least earlier today, you couldn't, which I thought was kind of odd. Because if I remember right, I think there's actually a page that says, oh, pre-order. But then there's no link to go anyplace. So, I don't know. Chris Leonard says they plan on running Pendragon this year using just the starter set. Hey, it's a Chaosium Inc. starter set. It's good stuff. They almost always are really, really nicely done. I talk about the Call of Cthulhu starter set all the time that you're going to get a lot of use out of that starter set. It's not just some, some rules and then, oh, here's an adventure to keep you occupied for the evening. No, not at all. I think we've got somebody new popped on into chat. Maybe not. I did say hello to Ravenclaw, so you know me. I always like to try to say hello to everybody when they pop on in. All right. So there we've got this information. That's kind of cool how we've got this map layout here. Not sure what the empty circles would represent. So it's giving us information about the forest itself. It's talking about threshold adventures. So there is a player's map. I'm guessing that's this. And this would be the player's map. It's kind of cool that they're going to have a map here. What is that Dracula? It's like, wait a second. It looks like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula sitting there. So it looks like we're gonna start off with some they say adventures, but they're more like encounters. So as an example, we've got a game of chance. Says these adventures are designed to challenge player knights as they explore and investigate the mysteries of the Forest Sauvage. Each adventure includes key elements of the overarching lore and background, providing context and depth to the story. While it's not necessary for the game master to read every adventure in detail, a quick skim will provide a comprehensive understanding of the events and themes at play. So it gives us the setting. So here we've got a scholarly opinion, which takes place in the town of Oxford at the Royal College of Arts. And we get characters, secrets, and then the problem. So the player knights have heard there is a wondrous clerk well-versed in the 7 arts and the dubiously legal art of astrology. He is said to be most wise and knowledgeable about the Forest Sauvage. He is concerned about the approaching menace of the woods and has information to share with the player knights. However, he does not know nor trust them. He reasons that if one of them can beat him in a new game called chess, they are at least wise enough to try to solve the mystery of the forest. And then we have a solution. It says each player knight may attempt to beat Master Pertonius. I think that's how it's pronounced. Who is not a master at games of chance and skill. His gaming is 12. This is an opposed resolution between the player knights and the master's gaming skill. Nice. So we have quite a few of these. And then I think this is where this is more of like the sandbox campaign aspects of this comes into play. Oh, jeez, what the hell is that? Oh, it's a changeling. Nice. There we go. Matthew Constantine says, I'm glad to have a new laptop so I can actually chime in. But YouTube ads on my laptop are nuts. Way worse than on my tablet. Kim King says, mystery is the wild hunt. It's going to drive you back out of the forest in terror. As I'm on gas, did anyone sign up to get the Pendragon Collector's Edition, the Magnum Opus? It turned out amazing. Are you talking about the red, like, faux leather book? Devil baby, evil baby. Well, it's a changeling. Which reminds me of, I don't know if any of you out there had checked this out. When there's a podcast called Lore, which is really cool. I don't listen to it as often as I used to, but it's like every 2 weeks, and it's always just some strange, a lot of times supernatural kind of thing. And one was about the story of an Irishman who murders his wife because he thinks she's a changeling. And I mean, this is a true story. This is real. It went to court and everything. I mean, of course, it's like 1800s or something like that. Really wild. But yes, I definitely recommend Lore if you have not checked it out. And they did a series for, I think it was for Apple TV, where they actually dramatized like 6 or 8 episodes for a couple of seasons each. It was pretty well done, pretty nicely done. All right, so we got the changeling. Ooh, it's the player knight's newborn child. Oh, there you go. Agile Monk said, yes, it's the red book. I have it. The fine folks at Chaosium gave it to me at Gen Con. They had put a copy on the side, and I was given it. They were like, hey, we wanted to give you this as thanks to for all the coverage that had given Chaosium over the years. So upon inspection at its first dawn, is leathery skinned and ugly and wails all the time. The family is distraught, the servants are shocked, and the commoners are frightened. Fairies loyal to King Sauvage took the player knight's child to King Sauvage and replaced the babe with a changeling. Dun, dun, dun. Nice. Despite its evil, you cannot cast a changeling out, kill it, or even give it to Saxon slavers without instantly losing 5 points of honor and 10 of love family. Hurting the changeling will also harm your distant lost child who's somewhere in the Forest Sauvage, likely dwelling with King Sauvage. I would say that would be just a perfect hook, right? So if you're not overly familiar with Pendragon, Pendragon is quite different than other role-playing games. Mechanically, it's very different. Although it is still considered to be basic role-playing, even though rather than percentile dice, you're rolling a 20-sided die. But as far as like adventure campaigns, they go through time relatively quickly, and you can have a campaign that you would play multiple characters within the same family, different generations. So very, very cool. That's one of the reasons why so many people are eagerly anticipating the Great Pendragon campaign, because that is the epitome of the campaign style of Pendragon. So very nice. So it looks like these are still all different short adventures here. Looking to see where we've got the longer form tales. If you're curious about the production quality, nice, thick, matte paper stock, which is what we see with the Pendragon releases. It also has a stitch binding. So that is going to hold up pretty nicely here. Of course, once again, this is just a first look, so I tend to try to skip pages in that, because I know publishers don't want every single page out there online. Pete Stracklet says, last time a player picked up a crying baby, it was vampiric and killed him. Tried to save him and skewered the mini beast, but it was too late. So sad. Chris Langren asks, what book do you need once beyond the starter set? There are the 2 books. You've got the core rule book, which is essentially the player's handbook. And then there is also the Game Master's Guide. So it does have 2 core books. There has been the Grey Knight, which is an adventure collection, just like this book here. Although I will say that the adventures tend to be more long form, like we're going to see here, The Adventure of Black Anise. But I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I know there are people out there who whinge about there being female knights in Pendragon. And my response to that is, well, if you got a problem with it, just don't have them in your game. No big deal. All right. Black Anise is a demonic hag. Her features are a livid blue, and she has great teeth and iron claws, which she used to dig her cave out of the sandstone hills on the outskirts of the town of Leicester. I think that's the town's name. I don't know. I haven't been to England. One of these days, I swear. I have a passport and everything, but it costs money to go travel overseas. She attacks lone travelers and children, as well as taking the lambs of local shepherds and any wandering beasts in the area. Black Anise may have once been human, but if she was, she has become permanently possessed by the deity. She's an incarnation of the destroying goddess and incredibly powerful. It's up to the game master whether to treat her as a fairy, a fiend, or neither. All right, so she wanders the Dane Hills, eating humans. So it looks like the player knights might be approached by the mayor, asking them if they could help the town out. All right. This is a little bit longer than those other adventures, but not a ton. Then we got the adventure of White Horse Dale. This adventure is best undertaken with at least 4 player knights. They should all have trusty steeds capable of long rides. The player knights must learn of this event themselves, as it is not common knowledge amongst the nobility of Salisbury. They might learn it from anyone, but for our purposes, we introduce a game master character called the Knight of the Old Ways. Well. Scott Lazarus asks, hasn't Greg Safford passed away? Yes, Greg Safford passed away, gosh, now it's got to be about, 7-8 years ago? So Simon York says, if you care for British town pronunciations, it should sound like Leicester. Nice. Very nice. Dark Autumn Scribe says, Grey Knight's fantastic. I haven't been able to run it yet for my players, but I can't wait. Chris Leonard says, on my advice, they bought the starter. How much play can you get out of it before the 2 other books you mentioned, especially since I have all new players in my game group? Well, it's been a long time since I reviewed the starter set. And I will say, if I remember correctly, it's not going to be as much as you would get out of the Call of Cthulhu starter set. But depending on how often your group gets together and how long your sessions are, out of the starter set, I would say you probably will get about 6 sessions, maybe a little longer than that. So, but the player's handbook doesn't have any adventures in it. So the core rule book. So funny enough, when I reviewed the core rule book, I had mentioned, I was like, hey, this is really like a player's handbook as opposed to, well, everything's in one book. And then I was told that I guess Wizards of the Coast had kind of rattled their saber at Chaosium Inc., which they have done in the past, about calling it a player's handbook because, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, you know, that it's their term. It's like, really? What are you going to trademark? Player's handbook? That's why they went with, that's what I've heard. That's why they went with the core rule book. The GM's guide does have some adventures in it. But the reality, Chris, what I would probably recommend is pick up the Grey Knight. Because if I remember correctly, you can run the Grey Knight just with the starter set. All right. So what is our deal here? Okay. This is a special year, a centennial anniversary of the foaling of Eponia, the horse goddess. The Knight of the Old Ways says anyone who is present at the Great White Horse during the next full moon will have an opportunity to receive a great gift. It is something good for horses, but otherwise he knows nothing else about it. Characters must plan to be at the Great White Horse of Ulfington. Arrangements must be made to stay nearby and to get to the White Horse shortly before nightfall and moonrise. The Knight of the Old Ways is going, of course. Characters must take their rouncy, charger, and squire and should bring weapons and wear their gamblesons, since they know that the night is a time both mysterious and dangerous, especially on an evening of magical significance. Well. Yes, Dark Autumn Scribe points out Grey Knight works just fine with only the starter set. It's kind of interesting how much like adventure material Chaosium Inc. will release, and it'll say, oh, all you got to do is have the starter set. There's some Pendragon stuff out there, Call Cthulhu stuff out there, where it's like, you just need the starter set. All right, we've got more scenarios. The Adventure of the Salisbury Hare. It's a magical beast. So the problem is a mysterious hare is darted into the path of the knights and begins to circle them very rapidly. Okay. Then we get into some tables here. There you go, Age of Vikings. I reviewed that. That was pretty cool. Call Cthulhu. Hey, I think I know about this game. Rune Quest. There we go. And then, of course, Pendragon. There you go. There's the Grey Knight right there. All right. So that is a peek inside the Sauvage King for Pendragon. This is arriving in stores tomorrow. There's an MSRP of $29.99. I do believe you'll be able to grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG probably sometime after midnight tonight. I'm guessing it's going to be $14.99. I will say that I will have a link to the PDF once it's available. I'll have it in the show notes here. I will also have it on the news piece for this video over at thegaminggang.com. Little Britain has popped on in to chat with us. Welcome. They said Pendragon's one of their favorite all-time games. Yeah, Pendragon, like I pointed out before, we've got some time. It's pretty early still. Pendragon is a very unique role-playing game. And some people love it for that fact. Other people, they feel it's just a little too different. And the thing that really sets it apart are your, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what they consider them. I don't think they call them traits. Maybe they do call them traits. But you will have these like chasteful, lustful. So you have opposites. And then you will have 20 points that are broken up between those two things, right? So we also have cruel and merciful. Things like that. There we go. Little Britain points out it's traits and passions. Passions is what I was trying to remember. Because it's been a while since I shared a review of a Pendragon release. So we haven't seen one in a bit. But anyway, what'll happen with your player knights there will be times where their character is put in a situation where they've got to utilize their passions or their traits. And some people feel that it pigeonholes their characters, right? So if you have like merciful of 16, that means that your character really does skew towards being a merciful person. So then if the player wants that character to kill a defeated foe, they have to roll. So they have to roll, and they would be looking at, say, higher than 16. Let's say they had a 16 and they're merciful. So they're looking to roll a 17 or higher to go against that. Now, like I said, some people don't like that. They feel that it's like, oh, it's pigeonholing my character. In my opinion, I think they really do help players to role play their player nights. So, because you're creating the character, it's not like you're sitting there going to be stuck with different traits and passions that are leaning in a particular direction that you're like, oh, I had no control over this. So it's very cool. It's very interesting. And then, of course, it does utilize at its core mechanic for action resolution and stuff like that. It is using the basic role-playing mechanics, but instead of being percentile dice, it's a 20-sided die. So you're looking to roll low, so you're looking to roll under. But yeah, all in all, I mean, it's not a super crunchy game or anything like that. And the reality is you're playing player nights. That's what the characters are. They're player nights. Now, depending on the campaign, you might start off as a squire. But you're not going to be a squire for long. But like if you were going to play the upcoming great Pendragon campaign, you'll probably start as a squire. But, you know, it's really, really interesting as far as Pendragon goes. And it's been around for a long time. I remember picking up the original box set from Chaosium when it came out. And it really hasn't changed tremendously either over the years. In fact, funny enough, I've always heard that Greg Stafford felt that Pendragon was his greatest creation, not RuneQuest, which kind of surprised me. So, our Lenilon, taking a guess at that, is joining us. I believe first time in chat for them. Says, love the idea of Pendragon. Not sure I'll ever manage to convince anyone to play it. May have to resort to solo play. Yes. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Kevin King says, yeah, people make the same complaints about fear checks. Well, if I'm not afraid of it, my character shouldn't be. Come on. Chris Leonard asked, complexity on of the rules on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, you got to realize people aren't used to playing role-playing games. Rules light probably comes across pretty complex for them. So I would say, myself personally, I would say rules complexity of Pendragon's like a 5. I don't think it's a crazy. I don't think it's a crazy like level of complexity. Kevin R. Smith points out Greg Stafford wasn't the lead designer on RuneQuest. No, it was Steve Perrin, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. Though he was part of the design team, but he was the main, if not sole designer of Pendragon. The big deal with Greg Stafford is Glorantha. That was his creation. That was his baby. But yeah, if I remember correctly, the main designer on original RuneQuest was Steve Perrin. I could be wrong. I might not be remembering right. But yes, as far as that red copy of Pendragon, I think Of course it wouldn't be where I look. Like, yeah, I think it's, yeah, it should be back here. Womp, 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 womp. Little Britain says, if Pathfinder's 10, Pendragon's a 5. Yeah, that would make sense. Dark Autumn Scribe says, RuneQuest is amazing too. I really like RuneQuest also. RuneQuest scares people off. I did a video, and it still actually pulls in views, why you should play RuneQuest. And I promise I'm going to start getting more of these why you should play videos out. For one, I wish I should like reshoot some of the ones I released because video quality is not fantastic. But not to say this is, but still, it's better than those others, right? But RuneQuest kind of scares people off because of Glorantha. Because the actual core rules of RuneQuest, even if you go back to like the first edition of RuneQuest, no, this is not the original because that came in a box, but this is the reprint that Chaosium Inc. did not too long ago. This is the original RuneQuest. And I remember picking up the box set and reading it and being like, wow, this is so different. Because it is. It's not D&D. It's not AD&D. It's very different. And the thing with RuneQuest, people are afraid, especially game masters, as far as I can tell, they're afraid that they need to know everything about the setting. And there's a lot. I mean, there is tons. Just the actual deities themselves. We have multiple books. In fact, I don't think Chaosium's released the final 1 or 2 books for the Pantheons. But the thing is, you don't have to know all this stuff. That's one of the things with any role-playing game that I try to point out to people. Like somebody just mentioned Pathfinder. I think it was Little Britain mentioned Pathfinder being a 10. Do you need to know everything there is about Golarion or the Inner Sea? No, not at all. Don't think as a game master you need to have all that stuff packed away in the back of your head. Just take the area that your adventures are going to take place in. Worry about that. And when I say the area that the adventure is taking place in, I'm not talking about, well, you need to know about that country, that nation. No, you need to know about like 10 miles, right? In every direction around where the adventure is taking place. It's all you need to worry about. And I think what stops a lot of game masters from running games that they go out and they purchase is because they sit there and they think, oh my gosh, I have to know all of these things about this game world before I can even start playing. Hell, you don't even need to know the rules, for crying out loud. I talk about that all the time. And I know people get pissed off with my reviews because I'm not necessarily like the mechanics guy. Because to me, mechanics are like just the means to an end. That's all. So I'm also not the kind of guy who's like, well, comparing this mechanic in this game to this mechanic in this game, this one's clunky. And no. Remember, make the game your own, right? Like nobody's going to come kicking your door down like, you're running this wrong. You're having wrong fun. No, not at all. Chris Leonard says they did buy the RuneQuest starter set. They haven't introduced it to their players. Wonder if it's a good game for new RPG players. Is it a good game for new RPG players? I am of two minds with that. Candle Knot has joined us tonight. Welcome aboard. I shared a news piece last week of a Candle Knot release. I think it was Monstrosity, if I remember correctly. But on one hand, I would say it's a good game for people who are new to role-playing games because you don't have to worry about breaking bad habits. Or, oh, well, you know, I'm sorry. I'm just so used to rolling a 20-sided die and looking to roll high and yada, 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 right? That it's like, it's only Dungeons and Dragons and that's it, which is fine. I mean, if that's what people enjoy playing and that's all they want to play, I have no issue with that. In fact, I find it weird when people get mad. Oh, I can't get them to play anything but 5e. Well, at least they're getting them to play 5e. There are game masters out there who wish they could get people to play, period, anything. But, so on one hand, I kind of think that, yeah, you could bust it out with people who are new to role-playing games because the mechanics are going to be the first thing they learn. And honestly, basic role-playing is relatively intuitive because you are looking at, okay, well, I've got a 40. So that means I've got a 40% chance of succeeding as long as there aren't any modifiers tossed into it. That's where we start getting into some of the complexities. But, you know, they're going to be learning mechanics regardless of what you're going to run. So teaching them that game can also lead you into running Call of Cthulhu, Pendragon, anything that's going to utilize the basic role-playing approach. Those mechanics, they're all pretty similar as far as what the core mechanics are. Now, of course, there's complexities to RuneQuest. Folks may not like RuneQuest because combat is very lethal, but it also teaches your players that their player characters should be looking at other ways to solve problems rather than just whipping out their swords or getting ready to cast rune magic and stuff like that. So on one hand, got kind of dusty down here. It was from me pulling this book off the shelf. And then like a big cloud of dust. I dust stuff down here. So it shouldn't be too dusty. So anyway, on the flip side of that, though, there are complexities to RuneQuest that you would not run across with, say, Dungeons and Dragons, modern Dungeons and Dragons, where, okay, rolling a 20-sided die, I'm looking to roll high. Oh, I get to roll some other dice for damage and stuff. Okay, great. But for the most part, mechanically, Dungeons and Dragons is super easy for a player to grasp. Learning how to play Dungeons and Dragons where it's going to be fun for everybody, that is a challenge for people. But so yeah, like I said, I'm kind of two minds on that. That, you know, some of the complexities may not necessarily, because there are different mechanics in RuneQuest. So it's not everything fitting in as intuitively as you may think, even though I just said at its heart, basic role-playing is pretty intuitive. Oh, 50% chance, 60% chance. But there's other stuff that, you know, kind of get added into it. So Little Britain says they mostly run with a laid-back approach. Call the rule the way I think it is, not looking stuff up during the game. I would hope that anybody, I don't know why I was shaking my head no. I would hope that everybody out there who is a game master uses that approach. mean, that's my approach. It's like, you know, we're here to have fun, to enjoy a story, to create some memories in that. I do not. That's why the old joke with my gang goes way back decades, and it's, you know, grappling. Do we really need grappling rules? And it wasn't just grappling; it was all these different unarmed combat. Not even like for monks and stuff. We're not talking like martial arts. We're just talking about different ways to, like, oh, so we had grappling, and then it was like, oh, well, we want to get wrestling rules. And it's like, really? We need that? Really? All right. So we're going to wrap this up in just a few minutes. Little Britain says, nowadays with Discord and virtual tabletops, you can get players for almost everything. Yeah, sadly, might not be good players. But yeah, you could get people. Camnot says, I love Pendragon. We played it when they were much younger. I wonder how it looks now. What's the current complexity level? If not, relive Arthurian legend rather in Chris's mythic bastion. It hasn't changed tremendously. It really hasn't. Tweaks here and there. But for the most part, first edition Pendragon is not radically different than the current, what is it now, 7th edition? I think it's the 7th edition of it. Might be 6th. Kevin R. Smith says, Call of Cthulhu may be the Chaosium game that's most friendly to new players, especially since 70 moved to streamline a lot of mechanics. I think one of the best moves that they made is to move away from the 3 to 18 range for attributes and go with percentile, because it's the same thing. That's what would throw people off all the time. And to be like, oh, okay, so I've got an intelligence of 14. Okay, so it was still breaking down to a 70% anyway. So why throw in that extra level of quick math? I mean, not that I had any problem calculating, right, to find out what percentile would be. But yes, I thought that was a good move on their part. I don't like the difficulties where it's like, okay, so here's your skill, and then half your skill, and then 10% of the skill, or whatever the hell it breaks down to. I don't use that. I know I'm a bad man. I stick to the old, okay, -10 modifier, +10 modifier, percentile wise, as opposed to, oh, okay, so this is going to be difficult, so have it. To me, that's, for one, it makes for a really messy looking character sheet. So, all right, Mark Hawkswell's rocking on out. I will be rocking on out in just a moment too. As Kevin points out, Chaosium doesn't overhaul their games too often. Only time they'll overhaul something is if the community has not adopted the game as well as they were hoping, which really with Chaosium these days isn't really the case. Candlenut says best moves what Chaosium did. Well, I like how Candlenut called it the Chaosium. Cheers on that. Did was definitely Arkham, the companion book. That's a great publication. Tell you what's right there next to it. Berlin, the Berlin book. Awesome. Just awesome. Sadly enough, the more recent Call of Cthulhu books that have come out, especially their adventures in that. In fact, I saw Chaosium promoting some review of one of their, I'm not going to say what it was, one of their adventure collections that came out in the last couple of years. And it was one of these like pull quotes that are like really, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a particular word I'm looking, toothless, I guess I would say, is one way of putting it, where it was kind of like, yeah, that's a pull quote from somebody who's just hoping to get more review copies of stuff. I was like, because my review of that was not, I mean, it wasn't like I hated it, but it was, I think it was like a 6.5 or a 6 that I gave it. So anyway, all right. Kevin R. Smith says, I think the change from Call of Cthulhu 6th edition to 7th edition, probably the biggest change in one of their games ever. Yes. Mechanically, yes. Got rid of the resistance table, which I don't know. I never had a big issue with that. I guess people had problems with it. They had a hard time figuring out the resistance table. I was like, okay, all right. The chase rules, I'm not a super huge fan on, but chases are tough in all role-playing games. Just the concept of just throwing down some dice. But then again, do you want to have to invest in a deck of cards where you're going to be like, oh, play that, play this? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think another huge change was when they did Pulp Cthulhu. Because I've always run a pulpier Call of Cthulhu all the way back from the 80s. Although I never did stuff where it'd be like, you know, the player characters had secret powers. We weren't talking about like Doc Savage or the Shadow or the Spider, although Spider really doesn't have any superpowers outside of having money. So it's kind of a Bruce Wayne-ish sort of character. Anyway, but yeah, I always did more of a pulpy, two-fisted action, I guess is what I would say. That there was always some good pulse-pounding action, at least once in every session. And we would play like 8 hours, 10 hours. So usually had 2 or 3, you know, knockdown, drag out, brawls, breakout. Anyway, Chris Leonard says they're going to show RuneQuest to their players and let them decide if they want to try it. You want to make sure you present it to them as a swords and sandals sort of role-playing game where every character has access to magic. And no character is like a complete, like, powder puff as far as combat goes. That, you know, every character can be a viable combatant, especially when, you know, one critical hit, one lucky roll, and you can take out a far more powerful NPC. Might be something they like, might be something they don't like, because it can happen to their characters too. Anyway, all right. Candlenut says, yeah, what is your superpower? I'm rich. All right. So Kevin King said ran the Berlin scenarios using Pulp Cthulhu really went well. Yeah, Berlin is such a great book. I can see why it won awards. All right. So tomorrow's show, we're going to do what was originally planned for tonight. I went with the Pendragon book because I figured, hey, whet people's appetites for it coming out tomorrow. There was no embargo. I had double checked to make sure I wasn't breaking embargo by sharing a first look tonight. So that wasn't a problem either. But tomorrow night, we are going to dive on in. We're going to take a look at a trio of Shadow Dark releases from RPG Ramblings. I want to say it's podcasts and publications, or publication, podcasting and publications. RPG Ramblings. So that is going to be on tomorrow's show. And then on Thursday's show, we are probably, I don't know, there's some stuff that's supposed to be in transit right now. but we're probably going to take a look at Oz from Andrew Kolb. So that will be on Thursday's show unless something otherwise shows up. Because remember, I picked up the Andrew Kolb books because of a friend of the show sending along the funds to pick these up. So these aren't review copies from a publisher. So we can kind of take a peek at these at our leisure. Whereas if a publisher sends me something, I try to get coverage out there as quickly as possible. All righty. So that is it for tonight's show. Did a little AMA, I guess, at the end there, huh? Or at least talking about Chaosium Inc. role-playing games for the most part. If you like the show, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell and select all notifications. Because that way, you'll always know not only when the Dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of Warhammer 40,000 Roleplay Imperium Maledictum's Macarian Requisition Guide. Man, that just is too long a title. From Cubicle 7 Games. Yes, it is a gear book for Imperium Maledictum. I shared that review yesterday. In fact, from here on out, I think what I'll do is we'll have the 3 live shows like normal, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I will try to get standalone videos up Mondays and Fridays. And then Saturday and Sunday, there will not be videos. I think on the weekends, I don't get all that great view numbers anyway. So if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company while I'm sharing the news or paging on through a book or unboxing a board game, what have you. Of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. It is much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.